Hello and welcome back to another heartfelt episode of Mindfulness Beyond the Mind podcast. I am your host, Keneilwe Maake. Before we get into today's conversation, I want to ask you or pose a question to you. What does grief feel like? Because too often we associate it with feelings of sadness and mourning. But what happens when grief doesn't want to leave? What happens when it just creeps on into those quiet moments and reshapes everything that we have known about life, those around us, and family members? Today, we are talking about grief, and we're talking about grief that doesn't just happen once, but twice in a short space of time. My guest for today is Florence Maake, Rakadi to my future kids. I'm super excited to be sitting with her today, and we are talking about grief. And this one is a very personal and very close conversation to not just my guest, but also me and our family. In 2021, Florence lost her mother, my late mother-in-law. And just as the family was preparing to unveil in 2022, and also we were preparing for our wedding, my husband and I's wedding, unfortunately, Florence's father also passed away. In a short space of time, we have lost two family members, two pillars that really held the family together. The foundation that they knew and the life that was set before them was because of these two beautiful souls that are now resting. And the family dynamics shifted. For them, it was not just about mourning anymore. It was about what then do we do, because these are the only people that we have around us. These are the people that have laid a life for us. We are because they were. And the expectations that was weighing on them, it was heavy. And the grief wasn't just about navigating that period, but it was life afterwards. What happens to the things that our mom and dad were doing, the life that they knew and everything else in between. And in this episode, we will be talking about the weight of losing both parents in a short space of time. And we'll get to hear how that shaped Flora's perspective on grief, the unexpected ways that griefs can show up long after the funeral has been done, and how family dynamics, expectations, and the lack of support from others can really isolate you as you go through grief. And lastly, we will look into the healing journey, coping mechanisms, and the new sense of identity that one has to carve for themselves as they navigate the new norm. And Flora will also share with us how she found resilience, and she continued to pursue her career and make sure that she keeps the legacy going for Me and Ntate Maake. And this is a raw and deep and honest conversation. So if you have experienced loss, I am encouraging you to stick around until the very end so that you can pick up some new perspective in your grieving journey, moments of healing, and nuggets that can help you navigate this uncertain and unwelcoming emotions that comes with grief. Come along for the journey so that we can engage further. Florence is the last born in a family of 6 siblings, a proud aunt, a working professional, a graduate from the University of Johannesburg, and currently also just completed a short course with Red and Yellow, right?
Yeah.
And she's passionate about project management. So she's a project manager in her professional career in one of the best or well-known advertising companies. And if you know timesheets, if in your role you are doing timesheets, then you would know what Flora does as part of some of her responsibilities. She is one person who will make sure that you submit your time and you state where did you spend the 8 hours in your day at work. And she brings balance, creativity, and structure in the workplace. These are some of the responsibilities that she's very profound of and very proud of in her role. Outside of work, she is a woman who values family, deep connections, and personal growth. Flora, welcome to Mindfulness Beyond the Mind podcast. Wait, first I want to say, Nana, welcome to Mindfulness Beyond the Mind podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here and making the time. I know today's topic is not one that is easy to open up on, but thank you for honoring the invite and allowing us to engage in this way. Who did I remind you of when I said Nana?
My mom.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
my mom used to call me Nana.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And at first it was confusing because I also call my husband Nana. And I couldn't really understand, is Mama calling Kenneth Nana or Babita Wena Nana?
Yeah.
But like it was a very nice way of getting to know that, oh, Lueno Nana.
Yeah.
Before we get into the conversation, I have 3 icebreaker questions for you so
Okay.
that we can get into the swing of things, relax, and laugh a bit before we get too serious.
Yeah.
When you are a last born in a family,
Yeah.
you get away with a lot of things and you get a lot of things. What is that one thing that you loved about being the last born in the family?
I think being given more attention than others,
Yeah.
that really made me happy.
Yeah.
Because my mom would carry me in front of my siblings.
Yeah.
And that was the best thing that,
Yeah.
has ever happened.
Yeah. A little bit of jealousy of
Yeah,
others. You say,
yeah.
this one gets everything she wants.
Yeah.
And I think I can relate with that because to my grandmother, I think I was also that, amongst my siblings. My mom, I didn't really experience that whole being nurtured in that way.
Yeah.
But I experienced it with my grandmother quite a lot. I think I was still sucking my grandmother's breast, even as an adult, so it was a beautiful feeling. And when you think about your work,
Yeah.
you are a project manager by profession. And do you think the same structure that you have in your role is the same structure that you have in your life, or you're just going with the flow in your personal space?
I go with the flow. Maybe there's structure in my personal life that I take from my work.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I feel like, I'm just doing things my own way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I beg to differ there? Because
Okay.
I have experienced you in a different light. In the house, when you say we are going somewhere, we are going and we are leaving at 10.
Yeah.
10 o'clock, everyone must be in the car. 10 o'clock, drive fitile if you are arranging everything. The night before, the food is bought. We don't have to stop ko karachi,
Yeah.
tomeka oreka. So you are very organized, if I can put it that way. You even put most of us to shame. You'll think to the very last tea, the ice cube, meiji, lotion, all of the things that we would need when we get there so that we don't get there and want to go elsewhere. So I do think that your role at work somehow overspills into your personal life, even though you're not strict.
Yeah.
I want the time sheet in your personal
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it does overspill to your personal life.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. And if you could go back in time and relive a moment with your parents as a child,
Yeah.
which moment would it be?
I think spending, more time with them. I'd spend most of my weekends with them.
Yeah.
Would run errands together or make sure that, everything runs smoothly in the house. And that was the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also maybe that's where your structure comes from.
Yeah, I think so.
You spent a lot of time with people who are running a household, managing their kids.
Yeah.
And some of the lessons that they had, they then passed down to you, which even today you're still maintaining structure in the house. You do your grocery list, you check that everything will last you guys until month end or whatever. So you're still maintaining the same structure. So I think that's where you got your love for order from your parents. Yeah. Well, before we get into the conversation and get deep, who's Florence? What do you remember about growing up? What are some of the profound moments and lessons? And how did you get here today, like to the role that you are in, to the woman that you're becoming?
So Florence was born and raised in Mabopane. I grew up in, I don't want to say a big family, just a medium family. So I think one thing that I remember most about growing up is that we grew up in a family that goes to church every Sunday. It was not a force.
Yeah.
I think at first maybe it was because you're still a kid, you're still trying to figure out how do I do this? So we used to go to church every Sunday. I think that is the most profound moment that I can remember growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you were growing up, did you guys during school holidays go a lot to Limpopo to visit your mom or your dad's side of the family?
We did.
Yeah.
Me and my older sister, they used to take us to Limpopo, every holidays. You could think of March holidays, June, December. We used to spend most of our time in Limpopo, both on my father's side and my mom's side.
And I think it's very important because it sort of reminds you that as much as you guys grew Mabopane, they are not from Mabopane. They also have a place that they called home, as much as you now have Mabopane to call home. So I really appreciate that they took you guys with so that you can remember that apart from being born and raised in Mabopane, I also have a home base where my roots are.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they did not deny you that opportunity. You were able to visit Limpopo as often as you could.
Yeah.
So let's get into the conversation. I do hope that viewers at home, you will bear with us because this is a very sensitive and very touch and go topic that we are engaging in. You will maybe see tears here and there, and we would appreciate that you bear with us as we calm ourselves down and allow the emotions to visit us as we speak about the memories of those who lived with us. Your mother was the first person in your family to break the chain through her passing, meaning that you, your siblings, and your dad, this was the first time you've ever experienced the real loss that is so close to you. Can you take us back to that moment when it first happened? What was going on? Like, how did you process that first wave in that week?
To be honest, grief is something that I never expected. I was caught off guard by how deep and overwhelming it felt. Next time I'd lose my mom so quickly because at that moment I thought, Mama, when she now, because now I expected she's gonna live until aba a grandmother to our kids, and that never happened. And a lot of emotions were going on at that time when she was announced she's dead.
Yeah.
And during that week, I think I didn't feel all the emotions that I felt after everyone is left. At that time, everyone is there. So many people are coming, family members are there, friends are there to just be there with you. So it's not that you have forgotten your mom is dead. There are people keeping you busy.
Yeah.
Well, do this, let's see, where is this? So for me at that time, like, it didn't feel real.
Yeah.
The moment on Friday, that's when reality started kicking. But she's dead. Gone.
Yeah.
That's when all the emotions in you. You start feeling deep sadness. You are in disbelief.
Yeah.
You are questioning God.
Yeah.
You are overwhelmed. And you're just like,
It's happening,
yeah. And then after everything is done, everyone is left. That's when the emotions start to pile up in you. You're feeling everything at once. Yeah.
I think when we were preparing during the week, like with many families, you would be expected to help to gather the pizza, go borrow the tafula, chairs and all of that. And in that moment, you are kept busy.
Yeah.
But the Friday or when the body comes home for the very last time, you are then told that you need to sit and don't touch anything. And in that moment, I think that's where everything starts to settle because you're forced to sit with your emotions and process everything to say, how do I move on? You know? Like, how do I accept that this person, like I'm preparing to bury her tomorrow. And it must have been a very tough time because I know how close your mom was to each and every one of you in a different way. She had a relationship with each and every one of you in a different way. You know, there were conversations that she will have with my husband, Kenneth, and conversations that she will have with you, Elebo, or anybody else in the family but they were different, and that's how she built relationship with you, which was very beautiful to watch. And I know without a shadow of doubt that Mama Ke really loved the family.
Too much.
She loved everyone, and she never held a grudge against anyone. So she was one person who would be upset with you now, and then as soon as the conversation is done, she'll forget that she was upset with you. She will never wake up tomorrow thinking, I'm still mad.
Yeah.
So she was a very forgiving person.
Yeah.
And I think if grief is often something we never really prepare for.
Yeah.
You know, there's no manual, there's no, the only thing we have is scriptures that tells us that one day we're all going to return to our Creator, you know. And in those first few weeks and months after losing Mamaki, did you, your dad and your sibling feel like you had space to now grieve after people have left? Or did you feel like there was pressure to hold things together and not express how the absence of Mamaki made you feel?
I think for me, it's both. I had time to grieve, and then I think I was forced to move on.
Yeah.
At the same time, because we had to be there for each other. We had to be strong for each other. And I think the reason why I'm saying that it's because, you know, all my siblings and my dad were feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think going to one of my sisters or brother and I say, oh, I'm hurting this way, he's also feeling the same way. I understand that. So for me, like, it's both.
Yeah. I can comprehend that because even though we are grieving the same person, our grief is not the same.
It's
and
different.
We have to respect another person's space to say, I can't want to offload my emotions on them, because they are also feeling the same kind of emotions, and they're trying to make sense of, when I feel this way, how do I best accommodate these emotions without being angry at another person for they didn't do anything, you know. So in most instances, I know for myself, when we went through my sister's loss, I think we dealt with it separately. There was never us combined that, oh, we miss her or whatever. Each person would deal with it their own way, and we never really had an opportunity to grieve together. But one thing that I have seen you guys do is you were grieving together, even though you were doing it separately, you know. There were moments where you would speak about your mom, or hang pictures together, like when you took a decision to say she's no more, so we're going to take this picture, print it out, put it on the wall, so that everyone can know that this is Mama. Even our their grandchildren or nephews and nieces, they should know that this is Mama. So you did it together. Some of the decisions that you made, it was collective. It was not out of, I want to do this for Mama, so I'm going to do it alone.
I'm going to do it alone.
Which was very profound. And I remember Kamuntlung, there's trees that Mama Ke had. And you took it upon yourself that I'm going to take care of these trees. You know, what's the significance of that for you?
At first, I didn't want to touch them because I said, Mosi, the person who was a mother to this, plants is no longer there. What am I going to do? But a few weeks later, I started falling in love. It reminded me of my mother. And one thing that my mother did with those plants is that for them to grow beautifully, she'll speak to them.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. Most of the time, I speak to those plants. And I'm glad she chose a decision to be a mother to plants. Because that's what I am right now. I literally can't live without them. Days where I'm watering them are the best days of my life because it reminds me so much of her, of the kind of person she was towards her plants, not just to people. She was still the same person with plants.
Yeah. I think she also taught me the same. She said, in order for trees to thrive, the environment needs to be conducive. If there's anger in the house, there's sadness in the house, or we're not talking to each other, trees can sense that energy and they can die from that. So I learned also from her that this is how you take care of a tree. You water it and you speak to it and you make it feel like it is needed in your house, and then it will release great energy as well. And no.
Yeah, and also as you mentioned that if there's anger in the house, then the tree's gonna die. I think that moment when I was angry with whatever that I'm experiencing, one of my biggest baby died. And she's still dead now. But at least we managed to get another one that is big. And
Yeah, I love how you have taken on the love of plants, because they also bring a bit of peace in the house. You know, like the house is not empty, it's filled with some warmth. And probably that's how we know her presence is there in the house, because we're still keeping some of the things that she was doing. We're still keeping them alive, you know. And just as you were navigating the loss of Mamake, your father passed away in 2022. And this was during the time when we were planning for Mamake's unveiling. You know, there were alcohol was already there. Catering was paid for. The tombstone was there already. Invitations had went out. And
the same weekend.
And I remember also there was, I don't know if it was the week before or the week. I think it was the week before. Tate Maake was meant to go to Limpopo to the family, the side of the family high. And they had a ceremony that was happening there. And unfortunately, she couldn't go, and they had already also started preparing on their side.
On that side.
You know, Bialaba Setswana was done. The food was brought. Everything was in play. But I guess he knew, you know, that he's preparing his own way. Because in the same day, or in the same week leading to his passing, he called each of us to come home. It was on a Saturday, ne? It was on a Saturday. He called us. Kenneth and I were attending a friend's wedding, and we were bridesmaids. So we left the wedding, left everything. So you know what? There's no way that Tate Maake would just call us out of the blue like this. It must be very serious. So we need to leave everything and go there. We left. We got home, and when we got there, do you want to relay what happened?
So on that day, I just want to start in the morning, because before my father went to church, he was not feeling very well. He told me and my sister, I'm not feeling well. And what me and my sister did, we went to my sister's room and we lit a white candle, because that's what we believe in doing when, you know, we are not feeling well or something's not going right. And then he went to church, and then when he came back, he asked my sister to call you guys. My brother was there. It was me, my sister, my two brothers, and you. So my elder sister was in Limpopo. And then we sat down, and he started, you know, telling us how thankful he is, all the wrongs that we did, all the rights that we did. And at the end, he said, I love you. And that was my first time hearing my dad say, I love you. And I cried like a baby on that day.
All of us, we were like...
Everyone was so emotional. Because one thing that my dad is that he was very quiet. He didn't speak so much. And then on that day, he spoke.
Louder.
I was really surprised that, this man can really speak like this. Oh my God. Yes. And it was so special.
Very special.
Not thinking, goodbye, hi. But I really appreciate what he did. Because whatever that happened that day, you know,
gave us closure.
It gave it peace.
That was a very profound moment. I think I remember when we got there, I was nervous. Like, what have we done? You know, I thought it's going to be a scolding match, because your dad has never really, from a cultural perspective, I believe that he would never engage with me until I'm fully emakoti in the family. And that was the first time, very first time where I had to engage with him in that way, where he said to me, thank you for being part of the family. I love you. You know, like for me, it was like, okay, what's going on? So it was a very beautiful, and I'll never forget that day. Like it's very engraved in my heart. I know it's in September. And I remember it all the time when we get to September, to say, as much as September is a bittersweet month, there's good things about September. That's where we got to be told that we are loved.
We are loved.
And we should never forget that in life, as much as there's goods, there's also consequences when you do something bad.
Yeah.
You know, he made a beautiful analogy that day. He said, for as long as you are not on the other side of the wall, you'll never know what is on that side.
On that side.
You know, you will only know of what is this side because you can only see from this side. And I've always used that analogy to say, for as long as I don't know what tomorrow looks like, I don't want to stress about it. You know, I want to stress about today because I can see today and everything that is happening around me. So I've carried that lesson with me ever since, and I use it in my life more often than not. But at the same time that we were planning for the unveiling, we were also planning for a wedding. And he had written the lobola letter and everything else before his passing. How did losing both parents in such a short space of time change the way you viewed grief? Did it make you feel like your dad's passing, you were more prepared for it in relation to how your mom's passing took place?
Experiencing loss back to back, it showed me that grief is not a linear process. You can't say, hore, oh, I've experienced grief, then when it comes back again, then it's gonna be better. It gets worse because you are gonna start from the beginning. Wherever I was with my mom's grieving, I was in a good place. I don't wanna lie. I was, you know, in an acceptance stage. And then when my dad passed, it took me back from the beginning. I felt all those emotions. You know, it never changed how I feel.
Yeah, I think also with me, when grief or the loss of a loved one happens again, I get confused. And I think it's also because we cannot prepare for something that we don't know when it will happen. The only thing that we can do is pay for life insurances and the likes. But there's nothing that we can do beyond that. So I don't think there's ever a way to say I was prepared for this. Even when the person is sick, when they pass on, it's a shock. It's a shock again, and it sort of brings back the pain of losing the other people that have passed, and it's like you're grieving all over again for the very first time. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think you can ever prepare for grief, or you can ever be ready to say, oh, I was expecting this.
You can't. And also, if that person was a pillar of your support, you only left with one parent, so you're holding on to that, and that thing it goes away. And then the foundation of that home is gone. It's only you guys.
It's sad. I don't know how it feels like losing both parents, because I've only lost my dad. My mom is still around, so I don't really want to say, because I knew them. I knew how you guys were feeling, because I also struggled, like, how do I show up for my husband during this time? And you know, men can keep to themselves. You know, they're not really outspoken. They need to sit with the emotions to understand it for themselves before they can express how they're feeling. So how did you think, between you, your siblings, and your brothers, how did you think you expressed yourselves in how you were feeling? Whenever you were feeling like, I miss mom or I miss dad, was there a way where you would show to them that you miss your parent?
I think talking about my parents' memories, what they did, and all the happy and the sad moments that we experienced with them was a way of showing each other how we miss them. You know, we always talk about my mom and dad at home. Whenever the kind of music they like comes up, you're like, oh, Mama narrata this music so much. We repeat that so much. And with my dad nasolveli music, but during that week before he died, or 2 weeks, there was this other song that he used to listen to on TikTok. It was short. And, you know, after he died, we used to say, can't they waste that song? And then my sister found it on TikTok. Did we not get happy? Heruta that song. We were listening to it. And yeah, that's how, you know, we showed each other parents. Yeah.
There's a song, man, which reminds me when you speak about song, there's a Tsonga song. I think it speaks about, it's a gospel song or it speaks about God. That Mama Maake loved.
Yeah.
What's the name of that song?
It's Jehovah.
Who's the artist?
I can go with Maake, but the name of the song is Jehovah. Yeah.
I remember when Lebo Bodeka?
Yeah, that's when Lebo Bodeka.
He played it like so loud in the car. And
And I think when I first heard that song, I knew the song, but I didn't know, what it meant for my mother. When my uncle Bodeka, it was before Lebham Bodeka, she played that song and she was surrounding the car and I was like, oh, this song, it's really nice. It has a good message. And when my sister bought a car, we played that song and she was not alive.
Yeah.
So it's the tradition that keeps us going.
Yeah. Mama Maake really loved her Tsonga songs.
She did.
She really loved keeping in tune with her tradition or her culture.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I truly appreciated, and I had wished that we could learn speaking Tsonga from her, and as well as from Tate Maake. I remember I was trying to learn Kilobedu. Oh gosh, I kept butchering it. I was saying it wrong, and Kenneth was not like helping me. And I think maybe it's because you can't teach somebody a dialect. You can't really say this is how you pronounce the word if it's not in their tongue. So it was I truly appreciate how they lived the life that showed us this is where we come from and we are proud. English is not our mother's tongue. This is our mother's tongue and we're going to speak it properly more than English, which is something we hardly ever appreciate about life. Grieving is not always loud. It sneaks up in small moments where this you'd be listening to a song, for example, and it would remind you of your mom. You'll be in your quiet space in the kitchen, or you'll cook a meal that would remind you of your mom, or you'll pass through a place that would remind you of your mom, or out of the blue you'll feel like or something, which is something that I've always wondered, where does it come from? And I learned to realize that when that happens, that because the person is there spiritually, and they maybe came to say hi, or they came to just check if have you experienced anything like that?
I did. So many things, but I'm going to mention just a few. The first one was because I used to chat a lot with my mom on WhatsApp when I was at UJ. So I love scrolling through our conversations. And I love reading the conversation, but I'd always pass the voice notes. And there was this other moment whereby I was like, I'm going to listen to one voice note. I want to hear her voice because when I played that voice note, the first thing I heard was Nanawa Mama. And I stopped the voice note and I cried. Like, I think I cried for like an hour because when last did I hear voice high? 2 years later, I get your phone and I decided, let me play that voice note. Today, I've never played those voice notes. I still have them. But I'm never playing them. But I think in the future I'll do that. But for now, it's still early. So whenever I hear voice ya mama in anything, like it's those moments, and most of the time I'm sitting there alone, something, and then I hear voice high. There was this other moment whereby Snapchat, I was looking at the videos started at 2017. I was laughing. There was this other video, 28 seconds long. On the first 10 seconds, so my sister was taking me a video. And then 11 second hits. I heard my mom's voice, Abisa Lebohang. She was like, Lebohang itakwan. And then she came outside and voice ele hala more because how feel phone. And then she commented on my dancing and my clothes. Did I not cry again? Who knows what that voice, like always, it makes me cry. And the last one was when this other man, Atla, and he said, oh, Kaleksa bone mama le papa, bako kae? And I didn't answer him. I went to the house. I called my big sister. Kari, please come and answer that man. He's asking where mom and dad is. And it's 1 year later since my dad died, and 2 years later
since your mom. I guess because Patwaba Hulu they're not really on social media that much like us. We are so used to announcing things via social media and not really picking up the phone, remembering there's a contact list, there are people that mama and papa lived with, and some of them, they only checked each other via phone call. It was not WhatsApp or whatever. But one thing that I truly loved and appreciated ka mama, a day or a week will never end as our phone like a video, as our phone like a WhatsApp. Like she checked on us every single day, and she will call you more than once a day. If she was not sure on how to cook a meal, she will call to say, Kana, how do I mix this and this? And that is one thing that I appreciated about her, that as much as she was an adult, she also knew that life has changed, or there are new ways of doing things, and she was very welcoming to change, you know, to even trusting us to say, you went to school so that you can teach me how to do things better in a more effective and efficient way. That's one thing that I truly loved about Mamaki, and I'll continue loving. People often think that grief is about sadness, but it can also bring feelings of anger, guilt, or even relief. When unexpected emotions happen to us, we tend to want to pack them away. Did you ever experience grief in that way, where you were not ready to deal with a specific emotion? Like you just said now with the voice notes. Is that a specific moment where you feel like, I'm not ready to listen to my mom's voice, or to say, this is the only way I'll ever get to hear her voice and embrace it?
I never expected to Maya so early. And I think all the emotions that we felt, I never thought I'd feel that way. Because one thing about me, I'm a very happy person.
Yeah, true.
I don't like hutlabutoko. And hutlabutoko in that moment really, you know, inkemisitse so much in my life. You know, to move away from this, how do you move from this? You know, and I never realized what healing is at that time, because you sitting there with all those, you know, sadness, you know, I'm heartbroken, I'm tired, you know, everything just doesn't make sense, not realizing you know, grieving the process.
True. Yeah. And I think as much as the loss of both parents can be painful, one thing that I really thank God for all the time is that with the passing of both of your parents, it somehow brought you guys closer. And you are now in one house, you know, almost all the time. You're there. There's no moment of saying, I miss Ceci, I miss this. And even though Kenneth is not there every day, but the way you guys are keeping communication with each other. And it's funny because you communicate with emojis, but you guys know what it means. You know? Sometimes I don't know. I just see that black emoji. Sometimes it's the dancing key. Sometimes it's there's this one when somebody, I think, ubeta someone motohome or something. That one. But you guys know what it means, and I just love how it has brought you guys closer together to know that at the end of the day, you are all you have. You know, and just because mom and dad are no longer there does not mean you have to neglect each other, which is very lovely, very profound. By the way, the siblings are here in studio. Lewis here. The others are not here, but Lewis here, so I know she's giggling on the sides as we say this, and it's beautiful. Like, I actually love also how you support each other. One way that you're leaving your dad's legacy, I think it's through soccer. You speaking his language through soccer. I see how you watch soccer. You understand it. At most time, I would say to Kenneth, I don't want to watch soccer. But I think I'm denying him of that opportunity to engage with what or relates to your dad. And the way you guys are doing it, like, I don't know, I don't understand soccer that much, but you are there, you know the players, you
everything.
Know when the next game is. So it's just
waiting for the next game.
So it's beautiful how you're keeping both legacies alive. And what would you say are other ways that you're keeping your parents' legacies alive?
For me, it's how I make sure that everything runs smoothly in the household. I think I'm keeping their legacy alive because growing up, I used to run errands with them. And I think they were teaching me that when we leave the world, this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
This is what you need to think of when, everything comes. And that thing, like, it's one of the most happiest thing that I do. I do it with love. I do it with everything in me.
Yeah, you don't feel like I'm forced.
Yeah,
no, you're doing it. Yeah. And I think also the other thing that you have that is special, that maybe it's not seen in most sibling relationship, is there's no hierarchy. There's no older sister, younger sister. It does not matter who buys the groceries.
Yeah.
It's not about age. It's not about who's the firstborn and all of that. It's all about collaboration and trust, which is something that is lacking in most of siblings relationship. But how you guys are navigating life, it just truly shows that your parents somehow prepared you for this time. And in most households, when a parent or both parents pass away, the foundation really crumbles to the relationship of the kids. Some start their own life, some they don't even go home. But when it's December time, it's Christmas time, it's Good Friday, the way you always remind each other that we need to go to the graveyards, we need to make time to, I don't know, be together, be home, and keeping the family alive. I truly admire that about you guys. Which leads me to my question on healing and the journey that you went through. Grief does not come with a manual, as we know. How did you find your way to cope with grief?
This is very interesting because prayer became my strength.
Yeah.
And I've seen my mom pray, whether in sorrow or she was happy, she knelt down and she prayed. And when I lost her, it took time for me to find like a coping mechanism that I could use to manage whatever that I'm going through. And then months later, I remembered, it was in my mind, but it came so hard to me to say, remember how mom used to pray. And I started kneeling down, Keneilwe. And then the first time I kneeled down, I didn't know what to say. And I said, God, I'm hurting. And then that, after I was done saying that, when I sat down, I felt so much peace in me. And I couldn't understand why I was feeling that way, because the only thing that I said is, God, I'm hurting.
Yeah.
So my only coping mechanism is prayer. I don't pray every day. I do pray like most of the time. And I think my siblings doesn't know this, because I lock myself in my room and I let it all out. And the way my mom prayed is not the way that I prayed. I've listened to her pray, and I found a way to pray on my own. And I'm very thankful for all her teachings when it comes to faith.
Mamake was a prophet, ne? Nanale moya, like which was very profound, because I remember she said to me, I was also going through a difficult time of my own with my sister's grief. And she said to me that I can see that you are heavy. And in order for you to get to a space of healing is you need to talk to God. And that is how I went back to prayer myself. Because she said to me, kneel and pray. I can't tell you how to cope with this, because I don't know how you're feeling. But God 100% knows how you're feeling, because He created you. So that's how I went back to God, to cope with my grief. It was through her communicating to me that I can see that you're heavy, and the only way for you to release is through prayer. People grieve differently. Some find healing in community, while others need solitude. What did grief look like for you to get back into the things that you enjoy doing? Like, how did you make space for grief? Because I know you love exploring different restaurants. You love trying out new things, and you were not like that before. So how did you make space to say, when I'm sad, I'm going to grieve, but I'm not going to stay in the sadness? So how did you navigate that space?
I think as mentioned, I spent most of my time with my mom. We'd go like wherever we wanted to go to. I remember when I was working from home with her, she used to take me to, a Kasi restaurant to buy food whenever it's lunch. So her not being there on, after 3 months,
Yeah.
I had to figure out how am I going to do this without her. Should I keep going out more just to let my heart be at peace so that I can say, oh, mama asaliteni, this is what I enjoy doing now.
Yeah.
So I started going out more often without her. I know I want her to be there, but at the same time, I said, I'm going to let this memory keep it on going.
Yeah.
Because that's how I keep the memory high alive.
Yeah, it's a very profound way of still remembering someone, but making it your own. Finding ways to do it.
Yeah.
But with the idea that I'm remembering or keeping the legacy of the things that we did together alive. Looking at your career and how early it was for you in your career, and then you lost both parents. You are passionate about project management.
Yeah.
How did grief impact your work, and how did you manage to stay grounded professionally when you were grieving?
So when I lost my mom, we're still working from home. And I think that really helped me a lot because I didn't want to face people, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Everyone that was reaching out to me, I was pushing them away from me. I wanted to be in a quiet space so that I can reflect on my emotions. And with my career, I did not go to work. That really helped me because I didn't want to face anybody. So I let myself grieve at home without anybody else interfering in whatever that I'm feeling, because you'd be sitting there ka laptop ya, and then Toma your mom's picture, or that picture is there, then you go and cry. So when you are at work and then I see my mom's picture, so working from home really helped me go Kirenyaga because I grieved, peacefully. Yeah.
And we thank you, organizations that allow us to work from home, because with that benefit or that flexibility, we then get to heal and be in tune with ourselves. So thank you, Flora's employer. I think we are nearing the end of our conversation, and I think just to wrap things up, because grief does not have an end point, but healing is more of a journey. Where would you say you are in your healing process with losing both parents?
I'm in acceptance stage. Grieving is never going away. It will always be there. And I think where I am right now, I've passed, so many stages of grief, from deep sadness, heartbroken, tired, to starting to understand what grieving or healing is, to getting back to your normal self, and then to start going out a bit often, to being able to say, I understand what grieving or healing is. It's never going away. It will never. But where I am right now, I've accepted to live without my parents. I carry their memories in my heart, and I believe that, they're there. Every
step of the way.
Every step of the way.
Yeah, true. Well, I am celebrating 7 years of my sister's anniversary today. Death anniversary, by the way. And I still find it difficult to comprehend or to make sense, and that could be because of how she passed through an accident. And that could make it difficult for someone. What is that one advice you'd give someone who's going through grief? How would you advise somebody to navigate that space?
It's very hard to advise based on, what we're going through. But there's one saying that really helped me a lot, that said, grief is love. And when I saw that, I was very confused, because what I knew was that grief is pain.
Yeah.
And why is grief love. It's because of the memories that are still in our heart that makes us even love more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's deep. Grief is love because of the memories that we share with those people.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to take that and use it in my own way.
Yeah.
And I love that you say that, because my therapist also said the same thing, that when you are in deep pain because of somebody that you have lost, it's not that you are in sadness. It's because of the connection or the love that you had for that person. That's why there will be deep pain.
Yeah.
That's why with other losses, you are able to say, oh, may their soul rest in peace, and you grieve it, but it does not stay with you for that long.
Yeah.
You know, you're able to accept quickly.
Yeah.
But when there's deep love and deep connection, that's where it becomes difficult for one to really pack up the emotions and leave.
Yeah.
And we have reached the end of our conversation.
Yeah.
Are you on social media?
Yes, I am.
Who are you on social media? How do people find you?
Florence Maake on both Instagram and Facebook.
TikTok?
TikTok, no.
You're not on TikTok?
Yeah, I just watch videos. I don't have an account.
Oh, okay. All right. Florence Maake on both Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
On LinkedIn? Are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am. My favorite social media platform.
You are also Florence Maake on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Well, if you are in need of understanding what does a project manager do, or in need of understanding her career, you can check her out on her favorite social media platform, which is LinkedIn. Look at some of the responsibilities, some of the skills that she has, and you can ask her, how do I go about gaining the skills? You know, how do I go about tapping into becoming a project manager, because I'm really passionate about organizing and growing in my career. And she'll give you advice on how she did it. And it might not work for you because it's her own routine or her own process that you followed, but she's more than willing to give you the advice. Before we sign out, do you have a penny drop moment for us prepared?
Yes, I do.
So we often leave our listeners with a penny drop moment, which is a word of wisdom that she lives by, that has carried her during her life, and that she uses every now and again. And I'm going to give you the platform to give our viewers at home a penny drop moment.
My penny drop moment is based on grief, as it was our topic.
Yeah.
And it says, God heals differently.
Yeah.
He may not heal the way we want him to, but at the end of the day, he does heal.
That's deep. That is deep. God heals differently. He might not heal the way that we want him to, but at the end, he does heal. There you have it. That's your penny drop moment. If you're going through challenging times, if you're going through grief, loss, or anything that have misplaced you, hold on to the trust and the hope that God heals, even though he might not heal the way that you want him to. But at the end of the day, he will definitely heal you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following us. If you haven't followed us, please subscribe to our social media platforms. We are Mindfulness Beyond the Mind podcast on all social media platforms. And leave us a comment, show us love, help us grow, and share this content with those who haven't found us, who are in need of such content. Until next time, we'll see you on the next one.